China poses the most existential threat ever known to mankind. I'm going to explain that in great detail in this video. I'm going to show just how dire this is. This is going to be the scariest video you've probably ever seen in your life. But I am going to show you exactly how it can be done with no question about it. This is Greg Allison with Green Greg's. Buckle up. This is going to be a heck of a ride. So, guys, my friends, watch out. This is serious business. Guys, is China coming for you? What can they do with robots? Guys, Elon Musk told us that in a few years, robots will outnumber humans. He wasn't kidding. I'm going to show you exactly how this can be done and how China, even with their crashing economy, can and will accomplish this. How they actually have plans to do this, how they will finance it, even under trade sanctions, even under the trade war with their economy crashing, how and why they will be motivated to do this, and how it will make up for their demographic crash. Peter Zeihan was wrong on this. I hate to say that. Peter Zeihan predicts that China will absolutely crash and basically be non-existent within 5 to 10 years. My friends, China has a plan for that. China knows how to deal with this, and they're already taking action. I am going to explain this to you in great detail. But the prospects for what they can actually do with this technology and how fast it can advance are mind-boggling. It's downright frightening. And I'm putting this out here because everybody needs to know and understand this. Everybody in the world, because it's just not a threat to America. America is particularly in target zone, but so is India and the rest of humanity. If you love freedom, you better watch this video. You better pay close attention. You better take notes and be prepared to share. Subscribe to my channel, bang up the notification bell, and click all, my friends, because I am going to lay it out here. Yes, this can be China of the future. Robots can absolutely, in very short order, make up for this demographic loss that Peter Zeihan has been talking about. They can more than make up for it. And robots aren't the only answer to what can make up for it. This is the first in a series of videos I'm planning to do. It may take a while to do them all. It took me a week to produce this video because I had a lot of research to do and a lot of work. But guys, robotics is probably the first and foremost thing that they can do to accomplish this. China's actually also working in research of artificial wombs, genetic super soldiers. Oh, they've got a whole nother means of doing what I'm about that here. They can scale in a similar fashion. I'm planning to bring that to you in the near term. And also, well, hopefully not too long from now. And also, China is, in the United States, the older population votes. The votes are what keeps the politicians in power. That's not the way China works. It's not a representative form of government. The CCP stays in power in spite of the will of its people. And they don't need that older population vote to remain in power. Essentially, they don't need the older people. And in China, we've seen they've already had they've already basically eliminated major fractions of their population through the great several different cultural revolution, great step forward, and possibly the bug might have had something that they could take care of that older population if they so chose. They don't have it's an atheistic country. They have morals the way we do here. That's a topic for another video. But my friends, they got at least 3 ways to deal with this demographic problem, but they can keep their old people if they so choose, because this shows how to do it. This shows exactly how they can do it. We're going to start right now with what the Chinese have in hand, what they've already got at their availability with robots right now this year. They have all these models right here that are already being developed of humanoid robots. Now, there's also other robotic systems in development, which plays in this picture, which I'm going to neglect for the purpose of this video, because the humanoid robots pretty much are outstanding what can be done with them. The other robotics, robotic dogs, manufacturing robots, and I will kind of touch on this idea of robotic horses. Oh, yeah. It fits within the Book of Revelations. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter, because what China can produce is mind-boggling. Now, these robots and their prices today and projected price for the same robots in just 5 years. And as you can see, most of them are in the order of $15,000, $12,000, $10,000, with the most expensive model, right now being $90,000. Oops, I didn't mean to go back down there, but that's okay. Let me see if I can go back here. Good. All right. What we can see here is that the SEO1 right now is available for $5,300. The G1 robot from Unitree sells for 16,000 right now. Guys, think about the wages in China. Even the wages for an individual and all their benefits and everything the government takes, it's only about $10,000 a year for the average worker. Guys, this makes a lot of sense economically to replace workers with robots, especially when you get prices like the ones projected in 2030. And they will only go down. It's just 5 years from now. They're going to keep going down through mass production and other means. So now look at this on the right, the notes. It's talking about how many degrees of freedom they got. Let's go down here and look at this real cheap one, the SEO1. Oh, that must not be much of a robot, you're thinking. It's only $5,300 today, $3,000, a little less than right now. It's the price of a used car. I mean, just look why I'm going to get down to $3,000. 32 degrees of freedom, though, general purpose robot. So you can see it can't be much. Well, guess what? That robot is the first one to achieve a human-like gait. Yes, that robot, that cheap robot that I just showed you. Guys, what China can do with these robots is mind-boggling. Now, this is how they would replace labor categories in the job market. This is what you might expect over the next just few years. Manufacturing, welding, assembly. We're talking about, well over, 90%. Well over 90% of those jobs could be roboticized. Logistics, you're talking about almost 90%, over 80%. Retail services, cashiers, cleaners, 80% could be replaced by these. Elder care and domestic work, look here, maybe 65%. Education and child care, well, about 40% on that. Construction and infrastructure, 60%. Healthcare, nurses, technicians. Look at this, guys. About 50% of those jobs could be taken over by these robots. Now, this is in the near term. Creative design and innovation, 20%. Now, that's interesting. Governance and policy, well, probably only 10% there, but, that too can grow. But, basically, they want to, the government guys want to be in charge. So, this is just some selected headlines and articles kind of out, showing you what I'm talking about here. China's humanoid robot sector enters mass production with Unitree, Agabot among the pack. 6 out of 11 of the domestic humanoid robot makers have set mass production initiatives, and this was last year to make 1,000 robots, basically. 6 out of 11 of those, and they have, but they're gearing that up even more. China's AI-powered human robots aim to transform manufacturing. That is true, and China's investing over $20 billion in this right now, and I think that's last year. So now the thing that occurred to me was for the robots to be really powerful, unlike the today where they're tying into servers like your large language models. If you open Chat GPT on your computer, it's not running on your computer. You're accessing vast arrays of servers. So the most powerful robots would be the ones that could do it with onboard cognitive power. Onboard cognitive power. Now, what do you got to do to get there? Well, they have to have advanced visual audio processing, motor control, precision movement, physical adaptation, language understanding, speech, reading, instructions on board, not through some big server. Reasoning and planning, dynamic task execution and decision making, safety and ethics. I really wonder how much priority China will place on that. Good question. React to unpredictable environments and humans. Now, that is one area. Now, according to ChatGPT, to do all that without cloud connection, onboard processors must match or exceed current large language models plus sensory fusion plus robotics control systems. And they're saying it's likely to require 50 to 100 teraflops in real time with extremely efficient power use. Now you're saying, oh my gosh, that's not achievable. Well, NVIDIA, Jetson Orion, and Tesla's Dojo, and new Chinese chips like Huawei Ascend are pushing the AI edge to 250 trillion operations per second currently. So they're already passing that. So we're talking about a very near-term capability, guys. Now, Boston Dynamics, Tesla, and Unitree robots are heavily dependent on remote AI, but quite a few of them are heading in this direction, and that may be just a limited time that that's the case. So Oh yeah, by the way, who bought out Boston Dynamics? Remember this innovative robotic American firm, the robots doing black flips in factories, carrying boxes and all that stuff, and their little robot dogs? Well, that was bought out by Hyundai. It's no longer American owned. How about that? Yikes. Oh my gosh, guys, what are we doing in this country? Forecast. When can robots perform most human tasks autonomously? Well, this is going to be coming to you in phases. So over the next couple of years, it's a narrow task, semi-autonomy. They do routine, repetitive tasks like cleaning, basic delivery, warehouse work. Well, they're already doing this, guys. This is today. With partial onboard autonomy, offloading complex reasoning to the cloud. That's what's happening. Power consumption and size are of high importance, and and the AI is still limited so far. Yeah, this is kind of what you can get today, next couple of years. Anyway, now it starts getting more interesting as we go forward just a few years. Onboard AI chips in 2028 to 2032 will be able to be powerful and efficient enough for robots to navigate dynamic environments, use tools, communicate conversationally, perform complex labor without external services. Now, what we're just talking 3 years from now. But as mentioned, those chips are already in the works. Expect breakthroughs from companies like Tesla, NVIDIA, Huawei, and possibly China's military robotics sector. Oh, yeah, especially that latter one. Yeah, using tools. Now, okay, this might be a little bit more complex task if it's going to be troubleshooting, but it might read a meter and report what it sees, right? Yeah, this is a jet hangar in China. 2033 to 2035. Now, this is over the next 10 years. Full, generalized onboard autonomy in the next 10 years. Next 7 to 10 years. Robots capable of performing most human labor tasks, construction, elderly care, food service, light manufacturing, maybe even child care, entirely with on-board processing without constant connectivity. These robots will understand verbal communications, learn from observation, and you don't have to program them. They'll learn how to do stuff from watching, just like a human. That's scary. Handle irregular environments. That's something that's a huge challenge. Make decision in real time. If robots can do that, what they'll be able to do is mind-boggling. Power, cooling, and mobility will be optimized to enable 8 to 12 hours of operation per day. Now, a lot of what I'm going to show you is based on that. It's one robot replaces one person. Now, I would submit that cooling really isn't such a big problem. Neither is mobility. Power might be because you have to recharge, but recharge times don't take that long. And they could have swappable battery packs of backup supercapacitors on board so they don't lose their memory and don't have to shut down when they change the battery. So they can basically just walk up, pull out one pack, put in another, and keep going. So basically, you can almost multiply everything I talk about here in productivity, possibly by 3, but this is a conservative analysis. Conclusion, most human labor tasks will be executed by fully autonomous humanoid robots with onboard processing between 2030 and 2035, 7 to 10 years, likely capability. Depending on hardware progress, algorithm efficiency, and investment in edge AI architectures. And some military or industrial labs prototypes may arrive sooner, but for widespread commercial use by the early 2030s, it's most realistic and grounded projection. That's saying that this projections are solid, fairly solid as you can get. Now, what if China can make? What would it take to produce 1 million robots per year? 1 million robots per year. So we're going to look at a facility, how you would set it up. Now, I'm taking you, this is not boring, but this is taking you to the reality of what's really scary about this whole thing, how they can scale this up. 1 million robots per year. Well, it's actually pretty easily done. You got to assume 300 working days per year. Well, robots don't care. They can go 365, but this is a conservative analysis, allows for downtime and robot holidays, of course, or holidays for the supervisors and managers of the plant. Okay, so a million divided by 300, that means your factory's got to produce 3,333. So all those threes, robots per day. Strange numbers, right? Space per assembly station. Well, you got to have room for component storage, workbenches and tools, human or robotic assembly, and quality testing. So it's not just right where you're putting it together. There's a lot of other stuff in the factory required to do this. But the estimate is you need about, for all of that, about 20 square meters per station, roughly 215 square root feet, enough for a human-sized robot and gear. So, and one days the robots may be matching the maybe manufacturing robots. This is the idea of a Chinese robot factory. Hey, my head itches. Scratch it for me, would you? Anyway, assembly line efficiency. Assume one robot is completed per station every 2 hours. What's that give you? And 3 shifts, 12 robots per day per station. So that means if your factory is going to produce 333,000 robots per day at 12 per station, you need 278 stations. Again, we want to be conservative, so we're going to round that up to 300 stations. So how much floor space is that? Well, 300 times 20. Well, you need 6,000, 20 square meters, 300 stations. That's 6,000 square meters, roughly an acre and a half, which is not that bad if you put it on one floor. But if you put it on like 10 floors, it might be the footprint of your whole plant might only be 600 square meters. That's pretty tiny, 24 and a half by 24 and a half meters on each side of the building. Imagine that. Very compact. Now, it'll look something like this. Now, this is like a 6-story version. But, this each one, imagine every one of those buildings producing 1 million robots per year. And this is just one location. Maybe there'll be many such locations. I think that pull in the back is very vital to the whole operation. All right. And guys, you got to have a little humor, even when something as scary as all get out. So, annual production rate of this facility, 1 million robots, 3,333 a day, 12 robots per station, 300 stations, 20 square meters each, number of floors, 10. So it's just a rack up of all those numbers. Conclusion: 10-story robotic factory could theoretically produce 1 million robots per year and a footprint of just 600 square meters, making it feasible to deploy such cell in dense industrial zones or urban vertical parks. Or they could go an acre and a half anywhere they so choose, maybe out in the desert somewhere. Phase one, foundation. So we're going to break it down by phases, how they can approach this, and 3 phases, actually 4. What can be done in the next 5 years. So we're going to take this over time scales to see how this scales up, what they can actually do. Robotics focus initially here in the first 5 years. Industrial automation, janitor bots, and basic logistic bots. They're doing this already, guys. Expected evolution, rapid improvements in locomotion, navigation, and low-skilled task handling, already happening. Manufacturing facilities, estimated 20 to 30 10-story units needed nationwide. That's not that many. Each unit with about 600 square meters of floor space, making 1 million robots per year. Situated near industrial clusters like Shenzhen and Zhuhao, however you pronounce that. I'm not Chinese. My Mandarin's a bit rusty, but maybe I need to brush up on the language of our future masters if we're not careful here. I hope not. Anyway, phase 2, scale up. 2030 to 2040. Robotics focused, elder care robots, service industry replacements, autonomous delivery units, expected evolution. Let's see, we got we've already got big companies like Amazon kind of come up with these autonomous delivery robots now. Improved humanoid form factors, voice recognition, semi AGI is your artificial general intelligence. Semi AGI integration, manufacturing facilities. Well, then you scale it up. 50 to 75 10-story production hubs. So we're talking about per year making 50 to 75 million robots, okay, per year. Well, they got a demographic shortage to make up. So this is about when they cross that. Emphasis on service robot specialization and modular builds, which makes it easy. Distributor hospitals, aging cities, logistic zones, where they need it. Elderly care, yeah. So they're talking about these robots going into elderly care. And, I'm sure the aged people there would greatly appreciate it. And this would take care of this whole situation of not having enough young people to do this or to make up the economy, because the economy is going to boom, as I was showing a little bit under this program, like you wouldn't believe. So 2040 to 2050, fully autonomous AGI enhanced humanoids in construction, education, and healthcare. Gets this, fully autonomous AGI enhanced humanoids in construction, education, and welfare. We're talking 2040 to 2050. AGI is expected, some people are predicting it to be here before 2030. We'll see. Expected evolution, brain machine interface testing, AGI integration. That's scary. Generalist robotics. Well, China ain't gonna have no qualms about brain computer integration, brain machine interfaces. Anyway, manufacturing facilities, 100 plus 10-story vertically integrated factories. We're talking about 100 million robots per year, guys. Production of AGI class robots with adaptive capabilities, smart factory systems with AGI managed logistics. Hey, what it said, education? Yeah, these guys could be in the school teaching the youngsters. Scary, right? Or taking care of them in a hospital. Not just youngsters, anybody, healthcare. We're talking healthcare is one of the things. Now, post-labor society preparation, 2050 to 2055, post-labor society. Meaning, ain't nobody got to work at this point, hardly. Society sustaining autonomous systems in governance, agriculture, and in your home. Oh, yeah, in your home. And it may have more than one reason to put one in your home. Can we say, oh, you need this for your safety? Well, our robots will watch you. And if you have a heart attack or a health emergency, we'll rush you to the hospital. Or, yeah, if you don't serve the party's purpose, you might cease to exist. Yeah. So see, the government's got, they'll lure you for your safety. They always use safety to lure you in, right? But it may be the ultimate control. Everybody gets a robot. Ooh. Expected evolution, full AGI autonomy. By 2050, 2055, yeah. Emotional modeling, synthetic companions. Oh, get this one. I got to show you this. Synthetic companions. You mean like a robo wife, a robo husband? Oh my gosh. Manufacturing facilities, 150 10-story national robotic systems. We're talking 150 million robots per year. And you see where this can go? Life cycle, recycling and upgrade hubs, to update the robots, AGI regulation and embedded ethics validation, integration at fabrication level. Now, what's the ethics of the CCP? Obey the CCP. Oh my gosh, guys, this is getting frightening. But just wait, 150 million robots a year. What in the world could they do with that? That is a scary number. Here's your robot companion. In Japan, China, thanks to one family policy, there's certain age bands. There's a lot more men than women, so maybe these men can be mollified a little bit. You join the CCP, you join our army, we give you wife, government issued wife, GI wife. GI grits and GI gravy. GI wish to what? Robots designing robots? Holy smoke. Programming, designing, that could be the case here. That's the kind of capability we're talking about here at this point. This is what you call singularity, when robots and AI starts to design an AI and things take off exponentially. Understand the demographic gap. So let's put it in context here. The working age population of China peaked in 2015 and is shrinking rapidly. This is why you get guys like Peter Zeihan. I love Peter Zeihan. He's got a lot of good wanalysis. He just don't understand where technology can take us. I'm an engineer. I'm here to explain this to you. By 2050, China's projected to have 150 to 200 million fewer workers by 2050. So how do you make up for that? So the goal is to replace 150 million lost workers using robots. Let's use 150 million as a replacement target. Now, just remember, I just showed you how they can do that in a year coming up. So you're going to have factories making lots of robots, with robots making them. Phase 1, foundation. Phase 2, scale up. And phase 3, the autonomy era. So again, 2025, 2030, 10 factories and a million robots per year. Phase 2, scale up. You got 50 factories making a million robots per year. And phase 3, you got 100 factories, maybe even up to 150, as I showed you a little bit, making a million robots per year. So how's that scale up? This is how the cumulative number of robots on a per year basis. So by 2050, you could have 1.55 billion robots produced by this model. I'm going to show you how they can pay for this, because I know you're going to say, now this is crazy. They can't pay for this. Couldn't possibly do it. No, actually, it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to show you why they would even want to do it. Hey, and it's just not humanoid robots we're talking about either. They may decide that there's other robots that are very valuable to the if you can make 100, if you make over over a billion robots, 1.55 look at this, 1.55 billion robots, they don't all need to be humanoid. There could be great use for other robots, and maybe you would actually, the economy is going to doing so well, they may actually decide to expand that capability and make other types of robots, such as horse robots, robots you would ride. It would have great advantages over motorcycles or tanks or cars. You could go anywhere on nimble feet. If it's got good AI, it might be as nimble as a goat. You might be able to scale mountains riding on the back of it. I'm going to point out one thing to you. This is said to be a robotic horse. This is a Kawasaki model. It's got a 1500 cc hydrogen gas powered engine that actually generates electricity to run it. So, but look at that head. Does the head on like a horse head is more like a lion's head? I'm gonna come back to that. Here we are. Chinese military robots and horses and humanoids in front of a Chinese tank. This is the new Chinese cavalry. This is what we might be looking at, my friends. Don't that horse look like the demon horse at Denver Airport with the red glowing eyes, which happened to fall on and dispatch the creator? That horse did him in. Seriously. And yet you can see it every day if you drive in and out of Denver airports many times. Yikes, guys, the demon horse. So, Revelations 9:16. And the number of mustered troops and cavalry was basically that number is 200 million. How in the world would you get 200 million horses and 200 million cavalry? Well, if you can produce 1.55 billion robots, it becomes fairly easy. So, wow. This could be what was predicted in Revelations, because horses and troops require a lot of logistics. It takes a lot of support to feed and water and equip that many horses and people, sleeping arrangements, so many things. Robots don't need all that. In fact, all they need is electricity to run. You could put a small modular nuclear reactor in a truck and just keep recharging these things, swapping battery packs out, and off they go. Guys, this would be much easier to maintain than current tanks, than current troops. The autonomy and what they could accomplish would be mind-boggling. Just some trucks with small modular nuclear reactors, recharge all these guys. China could easily do that. It would greatly simplify logistics, greatly, and enable invasion forces if they so desire to use their Belts and Road Initiative as invasion routes to the countries that paid for them. You're paying for your own demise, people. Yeah, probably, possibly. Yikes, guys! This is frightening, and it comes straight out of Revelation. Now, you may not believe Revelations, but I can show you it's technically possible. Now, Revelation says, "Thus I saw the horses in the vision, and the men that sat them having breasts of fire and jants and brimstone, and heads of the horses were like heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire, smoke, and brimstone." Maybe it's like little cannons. Maybe their mouths are cannons, like a tank cannon. Holy smoke, guys. Holy smoke. This is technically possible within our lifetimes. This is what is really scary right now. And this could absolutely do what was, it didn't make sense to me in the past why in Revelations they would talk about horses. Why in Revelations and, over here in 9:16, or when they're talking about the Battle of Armageddon, different cases, they're talking about horses over and over. Well, horses may indeed make a lot more sense, especially, or just, rideable things. You got to remember, this is John Patton trying to make sense out of what he is looking at. Holy smoke, guys, it may be that these are far, remember, tanks get stuck and they can't handle mud and a lot of different terrain. Look at the Ukraine-Russian war. there's a lot of limitations about when and where and how you can move tanks, and they become very vulnerable. Horses are going to be a lot more nimble, can avoid UAVs and other things a lot better than a tank, can scale mountains, and it don't require, all the different fuels to run it, just to recharge the batteries. And if you got, like I said, if somewhere in the back chain of your logistics, you got small modular nuclear reactors, who knows? They may figure out how to put a nuclear reactor in one of these things. Maybe the reason for the robot to ride a horse, it may recharge him too. I don't know, guys. The horse could be a pack carrier, just like in human experience, carry weight and things. So this is a scary proposition, and it's technically possible in our future. This may be a vision of things to come, technically. And, would China like that? Well, they could dominate, absolutely dominate anyone they wanted to. Look how they're, playing Pakistan to dominate India right now. And in matters of fact, if you read these verses in the Bible, it's talking about a third of humanity being eliminated by a force that looks very similar to this. Yeah, heads of lions. So what are they talking about? What are they talking about, my friends? A third of humanity. That would be easier to do in Southeast Asia. If you draw a circle around Southeast Asia, and like half of the world's people live inside of it. So a war between India and China could accomplish that. And of course, then they go across the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, apparently. So watch out, my friends. Watch out for what might be coming. If you this is not just a threat to America, the whole world is in the target zone, including China, the people there. And China's got a bigger security force watching their own people than their military. Yeah, anyway. So if China began producing humanoid labor replacement robots by 2025, according to the roadmap, it would fully make up for the projected labor decline by around 2037 to 2038. So, guys, we're just talking a few years, midway through phase two, China could fully make up for their labor force decline and make a lot of money from this. This is a huge financial investment for them. It would have huge returns beyond anything you can believe. China wouldn't just recover, it would have surplus capacity to export robotic labor to Asian allies. Now, I don't know, Japan, South Korea, and Europe, allies to China. I think this is a little bit off, but maybe the robot they will export would be military invasion robots. Anyway, enhance domestic services beyond current human capability. Free human workers for innovation, culture, and governance. Oh, yeah, more people to put you under the boot. Oh, this could be the China of the near future, my friends. It could look just like this. Assumption: each robot replaces one full-time human. I mentioned that before. No major societal disruption or a global supply chain collapse. All AI safety and alignment remain stable. Robots follow orders reliably. That's an interesting assumption. You get the full AGI. Now, if this shows you the workforce gap in the dotted line below us, the current workforce, human labor workforce in millions in China today, going forward to 2050 over the next 25 years. This shows, according to this plan, what robots can make available in workforce. It's huge. It's huge. 1.6 billion almost out here by 2050. Huge, huge. Look, the footprints of these factories are small. This is much smaller than the mega projects that China's already engaged in, with the big dams and all these other big mega projects are doing. This is far smaller than that, actually. So it's actually quite achievable. And that's why I said China might even double or triple this, so they can make robot horses and Lord only knows what else. Key insights. So in just the next few years, 2037, 2030, the number of robots surpasses the labor force gap. This is what really takes down Peter Zeihan's argument. By 2050, China could deploy over 1.5 billion robots, according to this plan. But they could actually, I said, they could actually step this up easily, exceeding labor replacement needs by allowing for surpluses and exports from luxury services or military/logistical applications. That's what worries me the most. How much can it make them? Well, look at this. By 2050, the robotic contribution to their economy could be over $15 trillion. 15 trillion US dollars in today's dollars. My friends, that would double the GDP of China. It'd make them twice as rich. So you think China wouldn't have an economic incentive to want to do this? They're going to lose money on the current projection. They're going to lose money. They're going to lose people. If they don't do this, China absolutely crashes. China will fall apart. China has to do this. They have no choice. They will do it. They're already planning for it. So, guys, yeah, lost human output. It was the bottom line. But see, well, yeah, over 15 trillion a year, guys. This could really enrich China. Cost. How much is it going to cost them to do this, and how are they going to pay for it? We'll look at cost first. You got to build. You got to have the building and operate robotic factories. You got to have the manufacturing of the robots themselves, deployment of the infrastructure and support, training, integration, software, logistics. So, cost per humanoid robot on average. Phase one, about $10,000. That's about where we're at now. Some of them are cheaper, as I showed you. The SEO1, is already cheaper than that. And some of them are higher, so that's a good average. Phase two, but they don't all your factory robots are going to have to be AGI. They can be pretty simple robots. That's something this analysis neglects. It could actually be easier than what we're saying here. So phase two, 7,500, and by phase three, $5,000 per robot on average. Cost to build each 10-story building, about $50 million. Now, stuff does actually cost less than China, so that's probably an overestimate. Operating cost per factory about 200 million per year. Each one producing a million robots per year. So phase one, here we're talking about how much it would cost for this, totaling about $515 billion for phase one over the next 5 years. That's a lot of money, Greg. Well, it seems like a lot of money, but compared to other things, I'm going to show you how they're going to pay for it in a little bit here. So phase two, that's about $3.8 trillion. In phase three, about $5.23 trillion. Hey, you got to remember, this is going to be buying you $15 trillion back. That's a massive, great return on investment and a fairly, reasonable amount of time. So, grand total all the way out, over the next 25 years, almost $10 trillion over the next 25 years. But, is it affordable? China's GDP and 2024 is 17 to 18 trillion. Like I said, it'll almost double the GDP. Their GDP will fall through the floor if they don't do this. So they almost have to. The total cost spread over 25 years is only about 385 billion a year, or 2 to 3% of the Chinese GDP annually. It's feasible. It is feasible, especially phased in, partially funded by productivity gains, taxation, and or military civil synergies. Oh yeah, everything they make for civilian use also has military applications just about over there, except rubber duckies maybe. I don't know, maybe might keep the troops happy. Estimated cost, here it is in a bar chart, guys. Just so you can see it graphically. Again, there's your numbers there. Just what's on the bar chart. Can China afford it given a collapse in the economy? Now, here's the big question. The big question. Given the current strain on China's economy, marked by debt pressure, real estate collapse, decline in foreign investment, and potential intensification of U.S.-China trade war, financing a large-scale robotics labor transmission program may seem difficult. However, China has several strategic, financial, and policy levers it could use to fund the early phases. That's before it starts paying back. That's when they got to make an investment. That's when their economy is in the lurch. So how do they do it when the economy is in the lurch? That's the key thing here. They could do this without relying heavily on traditional growth, which may not be existent. Here's a realistic strategy for this. All right, including phase one. For phase one, phase one is the tough part, the next 5 years. So how can they do it? Well, China already spends hundreds of billions of dollars per year right now subsidizing electric vehicles, semiconductor fabs, steel, solar, and legacy industries. So they can take the job market in the world. They've already pretty much done that. By reallocating just 15 to 20% of these subsidies, which they don't have to subsidize this stuff, they'd have roughly 15 to 70 billion dollars available a year. China could jumpstart, and so they're already investing other money in this robotic effort. This is in addition to what they're doing, or maybe instead of what they're doing. Jumpstart humanoid robot manufacturing, fund AI core and hardware R&D, modernize factory systems. So they would leverage existing industrial funding mechanisms. That's what we're talking about here. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Issue national automation bonds, state-backed long-term bonds for tech infrastructure. Basically, they're borrowing against the future with these bonds, but these bonds will be based on the productivity gains that we'll have down the road, which I've already shown you can be huge. So they could do the entire thing just through national automation bonds alone. All this could be done through that. But also use People's Bank of China liquidity injection, like they've used several times during COVID and Belt and Road, and even more recently for some of their financial challenges. This is something that they do. People's Bank of China, PBOC, liquidity injections are kind of like Bernie, what's his name, with the Fed, who had the helicopter money. I'm drawing blank right now. Hey, I'm 65. I get a get out of jail free card on drawing blank occasionally. Anyway, tap the China Investment Corporation, which has over $1 trillion in assets basically. So this is another thing they could do. Allows wartime type tech spending without immediate debt burden. Oh, see that, guys? Tell me they could do this. And there's another way they can handle some offset a lot of the cost. China has millions of square feet of vacant ghost cities, stalled real estate projects, unused urban industrial zones. Actually, what we're talking about here, you're going to see in a little bit, they're actually repurposing some of their facilities for this right now. These can be repurposed into robot production zones, training and integration centers, vertical robotic mega factories, 10-story units. Of course, like I said, they could also just be 1.5 acre, 1-story units too. They can pick and choose. They got enough land. But if they want to do them in the cities, that's what they could do. If they want to do it near the places where they need it first, it's doable. Convert sunk cost into forward-looking capacity. Hey, a lot of these buildings are tearing down just for non-use right now. They're in ghost cities. They're like 20-story buildings. I mean, they got plenty of space. For strategic employment replacement. As unemployment rises, and they do this instead of funding traditional job stimulus, China could fund robotic workforce factories, offer retraining into robotic maintenance, design, and supervision. So the guys that were paying to do other things, they would just repurpose them and say, okay, you got a job now in robot maintenance, design, and supervision. You can supervise the robots. Robots will be treated as infrastructure, not consumer goods. Now that's huge. And that's really what it would be, especially in the factories, in the manufacturing sector. Robots would be treated as infrastructure. I guess a robot in your home doing the purposes of the CCP, that would be infrastructure too. Maybe they wouldn't need that big security force they got today if everybody had their own robot assistant, CCP assistant in your house. Wow. Anyway, align short-term economic stimulus with long-term labor continuity. Foreign robotics export investment. Yeah, even amid trade tensions, China can export humanoid robots to developing countries, offer robots as part of the Bricks and Roads Initiative 2.0 packages, position as a leader in robot labor outsourcing. So it gives them a new sales approach here. And look, these robots will be cheap. A lot of people will be wanting to buy them, especially a bunch of these tin-horn dictators in the world wants him a robot wife, a third or fourth wife, sex robot. I don't know. Scary stuff to think about, which will be under control of the CCP. Anyway, foreign revenues and state-managed export contracts can provide cash flow to reinvest in domestic scaling. So they'll take this money and put it back into scaling this up. Leverages China's dominance in global manufacturing. See, this is where China is ahead. It's in their current manufacturing capability. They're second to none in that regard. Short-term financial strategy. So this kind of puts it all together, showing a total availability of 120 to 145 billion per year, enough to cover phase one's 515 billion in 5 years without new taxes or major inflation. So this just shows kind of a little mix of playing in these different systems together. Again, I'm going to tell you that national automation bonds could do it all right there. And maybe a couple of these other things could do it too. So they got many ways to skin this cat. China can make this happen. Final insight, even under economic stress, China can fund early humanoid robotics development if it treats it as a national strategic priority like nuclear space which they're doing this actually, uses policy creativity and long-term state coordination, which they're apparently doing, avoids dependency on immediate foreign growth or external capital. Is this China's plan? Now, here's the next big one. Is China already planning on this? Oh, yes, there's clear signs that China's actively pursuing plans aligned with the strategies previously outlined. The Chinese government has initiated substantial investments in policy measures to advance in robotics and automation sectors, aiming to address demographic challenges and enhance technological self-reliance. Guys, they're on this road. Right now, they got $1 trillion robotics fund. In March of 2025, China's National Development and Reform Commission announced the establishment of a state-backed venture capital, which is private, fund focused on robotics, AI, and high-tech innovation. This fund is expected to attract nearly $1 trillion, $138 billion over 20 years from local governments and the private sector. So this is a different approach than some of the things I've already shown you, which is also available to them. And China knows all these other things I talked about because they've used them all repeatedly in the past. All right. So this is the 14th five-year plan that China's had. It covers 2021 to 2025, which we're at the end of. And the next five-year plan will be more aggressive in this regard, but China's current five-year plan emphasizes that communist countries, Russia and China both, their Politburo establishes spending in five-year plans. Unlike our Congress, we pass a budget every year. But what they're doing here is emphasizing the development of intelligent manufacturing and the robotics industry, aiming to make China a global leader in robotics innovation by this year. And apparently they're already there if you look at all the robots they're producing. Humanoid robot development and deployment. Mass production targets. Chinese companies like Unitree Robotics and Agabot are advancing toward mass production of humanoid robots. So, and they're talking about they've already begun this mass production, and they plan to expand significantly. You can find this in the New York Post and Wikipedia. Government support. The Chinese government is providing subsidies and support to accelerate development of humanoid robots, viewing them as a means to boost economic growth and address labor shortages. Exactly what I was talking about above. So, infrastructure and industrial policy, repurposing industrial assets. We're going to talk about the ghost cities. I don't have to go to the ghost cities to do this. I mean, they got enough, especially with some of the manufacturing cells in the United States contracted. Local governments are encouraged to convert existing industrial zones and facilities to support the robotics industry, optimizing the use of current infrastructure. So they don't have to pay for building all those factories. It cuts the cost down below what I was showing earlier. Integration with Made in China 2025. The robotics initiative aligns with broader Made in China 2025 strategy, which aims to upgrade China's manufacturing capabilities and reduce dependence on foreign technology. And this is in Wikipedia. All right, my friends. Economic demographic considerations. Addressing labor shortages. With a declining working age population, China is investing in automation and robotics to maintain economic productivity and support industries facing labor shortages. Yeah, they're doing this. Enhancing technological self-reliance by investing in domestic robots and AI technologies. China aims to reduce its reliance on foreign suppliers and strengthen its position in global technology markets. That's from the Wall Street Journal. So in summary, China's current policies and investments indicate a concerted effort to develop and deploy robotics and automation technologies, aligning with strategies to address demographic challenges and enhance technological capabilities. Now, guys, just given what I've seen, the kind of plan I could put forward here, you tell me that China, who's not already knee-deep in this, who's been sweating over the demographics for all these years, don't have this in play? Yes, they do. Now, here's a scary question. Can China invade the U.S.? This is where I'm saying they're coming for you. Can China invade the U.S. with 6.5 million humanoid robotics via cargo ships just at the port of Los Angeles? Just at the port of Los Angeles. Well, we got to start with the 20-foot container unit, the 20-foot equivalent unit, 20-foot container, the ISO ship container. Now, some of them are 40 foot. That counts for 2 TEUs. This is a standard cargo shipping metric, the TEU. So you get the dimensions here, 33 cubic meters. It can carry 28,000 kilograms. which is a lot of weight. But anyway, here's the idea of military robots coming out of a TEU. Is that scary? Let's assume robots similar to the Unitree's H1 evolution, the Agabot raised A1, like the height, the width, the depth. So we're talking about, a typical standing volume of less than half a meter, 0.4 meter cubic meter. However, military robots will not be shipped standing, but fold into the compact posture or packed in prone form, wrapped with protective foam casing. So we're looking at that, them saying, well, they need about 0.6 cubic meters per unit, because you got to protect them, right? So you look at 33 cubic meters divided by 0.6, and you can put 55 robots on one of these TEUs. 55 robots. Y'all might remember, I did a video talking about how many Chinese soldiers could be covertly transferred in these TEUs and how China could use the TEUs to invade America with cargo ships. And it really scared a lot of people. But for people, you've got to come up with air ventilation. You got to have food, water, waste management, and sleeping arrangements. And I showed how to do that, and I had probably a dozen soldiers packed in each one. But it was really scary just from people. Well, with robots, it's scarier because you can do so much more. In military packaging, container space may also include spare batteries, AI control modules, communication gear, shock absorption, temperature control system. So we're really saying instead of 55, we'd probably send 45 to 50. So we're going to use a number 45. 45 robots per TEU. ISO shipping container. Here they are walking out, being assisted by Chinese soldiers. Conclusion, standard TEU could carry approximately 40 to 50 military humanoid robots, assuming compacted, folding, protected, and possibly fewer if controlled hardware batteries are included. Well, when I go to Port of Los Angeles, I was trying to compute the use of 6.5 million, and you can see there's actually an extra port available from what I'm going to show you here. They have 7 ports available. I did this based on 5 points, and we're looking at cargo capacity of the MSC Tesla type ship, which there's dozens of these out there that China has at their availability, and they're capable of carrying over 24,000 TEUs per ship. So TEU packaging density for humanoid robots, Port of Los Angeles throughput, realistic coordination, the vessels arriving and unloading. I know what you're thinking. You can't sneak all these robots in there. Well, this is something you do after you take out the power grid. Maybe a few months later when society is really crumbling, but maybe they let the grid operate at the port. Anyway, so let's see how many TEUs are needed to do this job. You want 606.5 million robots, 45 robots per TEU. Well, you need 144,444 TEUs. It's like the number of angels and revelations coming out of people that get sent up, right? Almost 144,000 TEUs, but these are TEUs. So really, 6 ships. Actually, 5.99. 6 ships is all you need. You could do this with 6 ships. There's 7 ports available, 7 cargo terminal ports at the Port of Los Angeles. So Port of Los Angeles has like 25 terminals, but 7 of them are cargo container terminals. And so you can assume that each terminal can handle 1 megaship at a time. 7 megaships could dock simultaneously. Maybe one of them would have horses or batteries or troops. So you could actually take 7. You could do more than this. All 6 ships arrive at once under perfect coordination. Here we are, Port of Los Angeles, China shipping, with all the little TEUs stacked up being unloaded by the big crane there, being operated. Those cranes got the robotic controls and cameras that report back to China. Scary stuff, guys. I've done videos on that. Unload estimated time, 3 to 5 days. So how can they do that? Well, the first robots that come out are going to defend the perimeter. You can bet on that. But we're talking about it. This would be after a big power outage. So we're going to lose communications, power, coordination, and they'll probably let society rot for a bit before they do this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible, probably. But that's how they would go about it. That's why I got to harden our power grid, guys, right there. So within 1 week, all 6 ships could be unloaded. China could theoretically send 6.5 million military humanoid robots to the U.S. at once. just using 6 of those Tesla-class container ships, just 6. Each carrying, they carry a little over 24,000 TEUs apiece. All ships docking simultaneously across the 7 cargo terminals. Well, you see, you got one spare one. So, like I said, it could be for batteries and horses or something else. Entire cargo, well, you don't need to unload 6 million either. Our Army is only a little over 1 million, right? Imagine this coming to you straight out of the port of Los Angeles. Holy smoke, guys, carrying AK-47s. Well, they got more advanced weapons than that now. They've actually just come with a new coil gun rifle that can fire 3,000 rounds a minute, as opposed to an M16, which could fire 750 if they weren't limited to 3-round bursts. Holy smoke, guys, what is coming? As I said, Port of Los Angeles has 25 cargo terminals, 7 major container terminals among those. And here it is, Port of Los Angeles. But it's not the only port in Los Angeles. You got Long Beach, which, for a while actually belonged to China. We forced them to sell it back. See, it's got about the same capacity there. And then look at all the other ports. What if China, after the grid down, just decide to come to all our ports and bring in robots? Look, guys, they could put over about a billion and a half robots in the United States in the course of a year. That's about what it boils down to, because we got 62.2 million TEU equivalent units throughout our ports. Can you imagine that? 62.2 million TEUs. Wow. 53 million just at the top 12 ports. We don't, they don't need that many. Here's depiction of these robots fighting American soldiers. Let's hope we never see this scene, guys. But this is technically possible, especially with the grid downs. That's what I said. This would happen in a post-grid down situation. This is these robots with some robot dogs and robot drones running through an American city with no lights. And this is New York City here, no lights. And that's what you would have. So what can the U.S. do about this? I'm not just here to present problems. I present potential solutions. Anytime you bring a problem, you should bring a solution. I'm a firm believer of that. And a lot of your channels here on YouTube, they only talk about the problems. Well, their solution is you prep and get ready. Well, I always tell you that. Do that too. But there's other solutions available to us. You can prep and get ready, but I don't know how prepping and ready you can get if you got, millions and millions of robots coming from overseas, and they got one assigned to every person here after they take out our military. Yikes. Or after they made 2 or 3 assigned to you, because 2 or 3 got to combat you before they can take you over. And those of you that are permitted to live, which will probably be few. Anyway, 2025 awareness and baseline capabilities. This is what we got to do, guys, to come to take care of the situation. And this is what the world needs to focus on. Intelligence focus on China's humanoid robots firms and logistics buildup. Fund a DARPA-like program targeting anti-robot infantry weapons, EMP, microwave, and smart bullets. Now, we already have some of these local EMP-type weapons being developed, so this is doable. Harden critical ports, airports, and substations against robotic sabotage or covert delivery. Remember, I've talked to you about these substations, why they're critical, how they can be taken out by sleeper cell elements here in the United States, how the transformers already have Chinese communications components in them that can take them out, not just at the source power like the windmills and the solar panels, which a lot of articles are focusing on that today. This is in our transformers and our substations, and you got to worry more about that. We got to take care of this. Enhance cyber defense of grid, mainly the power grid, and SCADA systems. SCADAs. Now, I'm going to tell you how those are already hacked. Yeah. SCADA system. See my last video I did on this. I didn't even get 1,000 views. Well, no, the one I did on this did get about 3,000 almost. Okay, guys. So SCADA systems. So I've shown you how those already hacked. We got to be able to do something about this, and we got to get busy with it right now. Create a Pentagon robotics and automation threat division. Goal. Lay the strategic, legal, and defense groundwork for counter-robot-based threats. By 2030, now that's stuff we should be doing right now. By 2030, early deployment of counter-robotic measurements. Build layered defense systems for anti-robot response, space-based surveillance, detect container anomalies, robotic payloads en route. So you need to know what's coming on the ships. Port-based AI scanning. Too bad we don't have cameras on the loading docks in China like they have on ours. Port-based AI scanning. Auto-use scan by machine learning for mechanical signatures. Deploy anti-robotic perimeter defenses at strategic ports and bases. Microdrone swarms and kinetic traps. Robotic kill switch policy. Every commercial robot in the U.S. must be controllable or geofenced. Now that is important. Remember how I said China would probably have these robots, under their own control, that, they have like a sleeper program in it, that maybe they would just turn it on. The robot serves you and does everything for you until the day the balloon goes up and then that robot turns on you, terminates you. You don't want that to happen. This would be a way to stop that. And, robots all over the country are being used in industry and other places. This is an important aspect of what needs to be done, what we need to be capable of. Also, this whole thing about scanning, strategic ports and bases, it might be possible that we would require for anything shipped to the United States before it leaves to have an inspection before it's en route. There might be something to negotiate a trade deal. So we actually know what's coming before it gets here. That with and then anything that ships that don't go through that coming to the United States that you'd be monitoring from the space-based surveillance, that might help get us there. Goal, ensure that no large-scale robotic intrusion or incursion can occur undetected or uncontested. 2035, autonomous defense system maturity. Focus, mirror robot force projection with autonomous defense. We do what they're doing. U.S. military humanoid defense bots deployed by in Homeland Guard and anti-robot units. Put them in our National Guard. Develop non-nuclear EMP weapons, directly energy weapons, to disable enemy robots. AGI, artificial general intelligence, aligned military systems to rapidly plan and adapt swarm tactics. Harden satellites and ground and cloud command systems to withstand decapitation strikes. Yeah, our satellites are very vulnerable. There are ways to do this. The Space Force, basically, especially if you're mining the moon, you can just put a bunch of lunar regolith around them. They'll take a lot more heat and shrapnel and other stuff. Goal, establish symmetric or superior robot force parity. 2040, global counter-robot infrastructure. This is to protect the world, and it really needs to be at this level. Globalize robotic defense capabilities with allies. Create robot defense treaties, NATO, Robotic Pacific Alliance for AI defense. Distribute counter-robot production to allied countries. Harden maritime choke points like Panama Canal. Oh yeah, it's got the Chinese companies running both sides of it, right? Suez Canal, the Malacca Strait, and U.S. ports. Deploy sensor nets on coast, rivers, ports, and air routes to detect infiltration. The goal, to make robot invasion by sea or air economically and logistically unfeasible. Now, this is the scary one, 2050. I don't know about this stuff, but, I actually had ChatGPT develop some of this stuff for me. I've been spending over a week on this, guys. Prepare for war between robot swarms and human-robot hybrid forces. Now, this we can expect from China. And what I said earlier about their genetic super soldiers they're working on, I plan to cover that in the future. Integrate brain-machine interfaces to elite U.S. units. Fill autonomous anti-robot hunter squads, drone plus human plus AI teams. Develop robot recycling, reprogramming warfare. Capture and repurpose adversaries robots. There you go. Develop emergent swarm and adversarial AI to confuse and disable enemy coordination. Go dominate robotic warfare domains and cognitively and tactically. A lot of your military units, they train that, you don't carry zillions of rounds of ammo with you. You take the ammo and weapons from the guys you terminate. And this is the same kind of approach there. Develop robot recycling, reprogramming. They would have to be reprogrammed, definitely. 2060, deterrence by superiority and saturation. Ensure that no robotic enemy can outnumber or outthink U.S. defenses. Now, that may be a challenge considering that the manufacturer of the world, the place of the most manufacturing capability is China. This is why the United States has to come up on its manufacturing capabilities. This is where the tariffs may come in and serve us well, as it forces us to open more manufacturing here. So what if it's robotics? This is national defense. We may need robots doing over here what China would have them doing there. That's what we need. Co-involved synthetic combatants. Again, AI plus biohybrid defense agents. Prepositioned AI-controlled orbital and deep sea counter-robot weapons. Maintain command of post-human warfare doctrine. Deploy AI-based diplomacy agents. AI is going to be in diplomacy? Now, that's scary. Goal, the U.S. must retain command of future battlefield where robots fight under strategic human control. That's what's more. Under strategic human control, or where no war begins at all because the deterrence is airtight. That is the best one. No war begins at all. Here's the outcome we hope for. America wins. Hopefully without having to stand on a pile of dead invaded Chinese robots. Hopefully that pile we never see. But we want to come out ahead in the end. And it might be that this trade deal that's been under negotiation may not serve us well in this regard. Because Trump himself, on an interview with Fox News, as I showed earlier in the video, they had this thumbnail on it, which got less than 1,000 views. You'll need to watch this. He said, hey, if we hadn't have negotiated this deal, China would have broke apart. And I said, well, what's so bad about that? Maybe that's the one thing we need. Or maybe our only chance is that the people in China get tired of the CCP and overthrow it. And that might happen in just the next few years. If things get dire enough, that might be our hope, that they would put them out of power. And a lot of people are hoping that Xi will pass away, but his successors are likely to continue a similar policy. But also bear in mind that Xi's father lived to be 88 years old. Xi is 71. So we could see him easily here for another 17 years in the year 2042, I believe. So the idea of him kicking the bucket soon is not something you can pin a lot of hope on, especially if Ray Kurzweil is right. You know, he's the head scientist at Google, an AI father and futurist who says that we will have biological immortality in 5 years, basically. I don't know about that. That's pretty optimistic. But look how the certain elite leaders in the world have seemingly defied statistics and living to be 100. Quite a few. Really strange, right? So you can bet over the next 5 years, if technology is increasing that capacity, the head of state of a country like China might just squeeze in a few more years. He might see him in 2060. I don't know, hope not. But the people in China really do want freedom. They really do. They want liberty. But if you go out in China today and hold up a sign like that, you will disappear. No one will ever see from you again. But guys, maybe, just maybe, enough people there could change things dramatically. And if the CCP went out of power, we might just get here without the pile of dead Chinese robots. Non-functional, I shouldn't say dead. Anyway, guys, I don't know, guys. Let's hope that we have a future that looks like this instead of this. Guys, if we don't wake up, if we don't get our grid hardened, that's a critical aspect, because if we don't harden our grid, we're wide open to anything. If we don't harden our grid, the Chinese may come in here. They're already all in our systems worldwide, not just the United States. And those who survive, if they're unlucky enough to survive, their continuance of survival, to live, will be predicated upon the CCP's intention to keep you alive. If they deem you worthy to keep around because you entertain them or produce something they like or need when they don't really need it because they got robots doing almost everything they want. So maybe you would make a organ harvest repository, sex bot, or living fleshy sex bot for them, instead of what maybe they would integrate you like the Borg, put you in the hive mind so that you have no free will, or assign you that Chinese robot that might decide that you are no longer worthy. I don't know, guys. This is a scary future. This is why I said this is the scariest video you may ever watch. So with that in mind, my friends, I'm going to stop the share. Please subscribe to my channel. Share this video wide. This video should get millions of views. At best, my videos get 3,000 views, sometimes less than 1,000. And nobody out here brings you this kind of information. This is the first you've ever seen this kind of presentation. And this disproves the base assumption by Peter Zeihan. Pretty much disproves. It really shows that he could be absolutely wrong. And a whole lot of other mouths out there on YouTube saying that China's days are over. China's days may have just begun. The hope right now is short term, that just maybe the CCP will lose power. If they don't, there's a lot of stuff that we have to do in this country, but we got to wake up. But I've been working for years to get this power grid in this country hardened, and this country hasn't woke up to that yet. Hopefully, we can turn that around. We've got to turn it around. It's essential. It's critical. These things must happen, and it's time we start shouting for it. We've got to be secure here in our country. Now, it may be, as I suggested in that other bad deal trade deal video, that maybe Trump, what he said about China breaking apart, he may have, already surmised this is going to happen anyway, and he didn't want America to be blamed for it because he didn't want us to be targeted, to turn on sleeper cells to attack us here because we forced that to happen. That could be the case. I'll give him some wiggle room on that. However, what if they weren't about to fall apart? What if they don't? As he may think that they will. I've just shown you how they can finance everything. Bear in mind, through the Cultural Revolution, through the multi-year, cough, lockdowns they had in China, where almost everybody got locked down, belted into their houses. People were starving. Oh my gosh, guys. Given all that, they did not overthrow the party then. Are they going to do it now? I don't know. The Chinese people do want freedom. They really do. But holy smoke, guys, what's in front of us? You get prepared. You take care of yourself, but we've got to stop this from happening. So the best way to do that is to share my video everywhere you can. Share it. Get the word out. Take the link and send it to your Congress critters. All of you, send this link to your Congress critters, your friends. Put it on your social media. Share this far and wide. Then it isn't just America. The whole world's in target. If you got Belt and Roads initiative in your country, you paid for China to have all that stuff here. You pay for China to come in and build it. Now you're in debt. You've also paid for what might be the invasion route from China to take your country, take your resources. Hey, you owed us. You couldn't pay the debt back. Wow, where are we going? I got to say this. If you couldn't be under the type of umbrella that America might be able to develop here that I mentioned, if you're in South America and Africa, possibly Australia, definitely Southeast Asia, India, pay attention. Pay attention. Your future is at grave risk. Maybe India would be part, I hope, of a global alliance in the United States that we could work together to stop this stuff. But, Revelations kind of has some concerning things that I think are focused in Southeast Asia. Watch out. Watch out, my friends. We are living in scary times. There are things we can do about it. There are definitely things we can do about it, so let's get to it. My friends, again, share the videos. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, bang the bell, and click all. And I'm going to say, eyes wide open, head on a swivel. Thank you for watching. Reg out.